conversations with prominent citizens, which make us proud of being Mumbaikars. And today we have one more such conversation in this beautiful series that is happening. Today's guest is a dear friend, a brother. दिन बहुत लंबा था पर ऐसा लगा कि दिन के एंड पे एक दोस्त के साथ बैठ के बात होने वाली है. There's such a lot of assurance about that. Let me welcome Milind Mhaske. Hello, Milind. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Abhishek.
So let me introduce Milind in both ways, in a personal way, but also Milind's organizational journey. Milind is a very prominent social sector leader now nationally. Earlier, I would say he's a prominent Mumbai level leader. Now I can say nationally. He's anchored Praja Foundation since 2010, scaled it up to become a key national partner in transforming urban governance. He's the CEO of Praja. He's helped set up some of its key projects, report cards for elected representatives, training programs for them, Praja's Delhi operations, the ER fellowship. He's a business management graduate from Mumbai University with over 2 decades of experience in managing development sector projects. I know Milind for a while now, I think, and at every stage, he's been a sounding board, he's been a guide. His ideas have influenced Blue Ribbon's work also actively since, I would say, 10 years, at least 10 years now. So he's been contributing outside of Praja as well in small ways. So welcome, Milind, and thank you for receiving this invitation.
Thanks, Abhishek, and thanks for the very warm welcome and introduction. I hope I stand for it, or whatever kind words you have said. And I'm equally fan of the work that Blue Ribbon Movement does, as well as Mumbai First does. So really happy to be on this platform.
Actually, this is actually, I mean, now you mentioned Blue Ribbon and Mumbai First, so I'm going to plug in these right now only rather than the middle of the talk. So this is actually coming together of 3 different organizations that are bringing it together. Mumbai Live is helping take this to us, to a larger audience. Mumbai Live shows you the latest and best of Mumbai city every week. And Mumbai Live is also a channel to create greater awareness for citizens about their immediate neighborhoods. And they have very kindly been broadcast partners for this conversation. Mumbai First is an advocacy initiative. It's striving to make the city a better place to live, work, and invest in, through working with NGOs, with civil society, with government, with businesses. And if you have any ideas, please drop mails to info@mumbaifirst.org and they'll take it up. Blue Ribbon Movement is young people doing creative, innovative work for the city, solving citizen complaints, doing games, making decisions with 100% consent, and really changing this idea that young people are indifferent and moving it to the idea that young people care and they can do something. So lots of good people coming here together for this conversation, feeling the good vibe. So Milind, I thought I'll start with this question of what did you do today? Aaj ka din kaisa raha? How was your day today, and what was the highlight for today? To give us a flavor of what you do on a day-to-day basis, maybe a day or a week, but day is better. What was the day like? What did you do today?
So I've actually transitioned into a new role. So as an organization, we have been evolving a lot. I used to be a lot on the field earlier. Over the years, I think I've moved to be in the back room a lot now. And there's some very boring conversation that I keep on having with maybe going to donors, talking to them and trying to pitch our idea, strategizing on issues. But I don't really get to go on the field most of the days. And that's where my source of inspiration really comes from. When you talk to the elected representative, some bureaucrat or some civil society player, that's where you kind of really feel the heat of the game and enjoy it. Today was a typical day for me, really. Like, I mean, we made a couple of organizations, we strategized on something. Hopefully the idea takes off, and if it takes off, it's at a scale. Well, that's one thing that I started enjoying. Like, I mean, we are doing ideas at a very big scale. Like, we're trying to look at changing the template of governance in the country, and the stage has actually grown. So there was a very different discussion that we had. Like, hopefully when it matches, it will change the way planning happens in the country. That was something that I did in the morning. then the rest of the day has been really gone into catching up with team members, hearing stories from them, planning for some of the new activities. And yeah, I'm here with you right now. Well, I also got to spend some time at home with the kids, and that's another highlight of my life. Like,
Nice.
I think work from home has had its advantages at points of time, and one of the advantages is like you get to be with your family around, like, and that I think I really enjoy because I travel a lot, like, so whenever I get an opportunity, it's sometimes it's a bit of a challenge, like to have kids and then work, so it kind of has its side of story, but more than that, it gives you immense pleasure to be at home to and be around with them.
Nice. And now, even though work has gone national, your roots are in Mumbai. So I'm going to come to your roots in Mumbai, your early days, your connection with the city. And you said that you love the field. So I'm sure younger Milind, though you're very young still, but I would say the early Milind would have started in the streets of Mumbai. So if you can take us back to those days, what inspired you? How was your relationship with the city? How do you describe the spirit of the city? If you can take us to those days and your connection.
So, like most of us growing in the city, I think the city really creeps into you every aspect of the city. Like, and I'm absolutely Mumbaikar. Like, vada pav se zindagi chalu hoti hai and probably ends at vada pav again. Like, it's just obvious probably. That's the city for me. Like, I mean, uh, it's people and the great milieu of life that we have over here. And what is what started for me was really a lot of these things that we kept on seeing about the city. Like, I mean, it's a wonderful city, but a lot of things have to be fixed over here. Like, maybe roads, maybe water, housing issues. I mean, there's so many things around. And when you start going to college or start moving out of your home and neighborhood to explore the city, that's where you really start understanding it. And somewhere the journey started around that time. Like, post college, got involved into some kind of activism. People like Jason and others were doing something on civic activism. That got me kind of involved me. I mean, as a cause for me. And there were some wonderful people who I met over the initial few days. Nitai, the founder of Praja, was one of them. Like, his work was inspiring. And coming from management background, I started looking at it from a perspective of systems and processes. Uh, and that's what has kind of really been the next part of my journey for the last 20 odd years.
Building systems and processes in organization so that it scales to newer heights.
Yes, and beyond that, it's not just organization. It's also when you look at a problem, I start thinking it from a perspective of. So I like Excel a lot. So I try to put it into boxes, like those columns, kind of like. So instead of thinking of it as just simply as a cause effect thing, I kind of put different parts of it into boxes and then start thinking around it, like what could be improved in a step-by-step manner. Because things are not going to change overnight. You have to kind of keep on working towards it. And that's what I think we need to do if we are involved in public life also. It's a governance, for example, it's a very complex thing to change. You can't change everything because you probably have an idea. You need to involve many people. There's a need for a lot of consultation and things like that. And I think it's important to step us back and reflect on it. And that's what we as an organization have been doing. And again, personally, I kind of enjoy doing that.
That's nice to know, the stepping back and looking at the connections and looking at the systems. So, Milind, you have worked. When I ask you about the spirit of Mumbai, you will not only give us hopefully the spirit of Mumbai's people, but also Mumbai's leaders, right? You have Praja works closely with the elected representatives, the Nagar Sevaks, and how is the spirit of Mumbai reflected at both these levels, in the people and the leaders of the people? Is there something common, or are the leaders different from the people? How's that dynamic between the leaders and?
So I mean, the leaders do not come from outside; they are amongst us only. So they do understand issues. They do face the same problem. But I think as a society, we are kind of moved a little away from uh, thinking for the whole. We at times we do get kind of concerned with our own motives or desires, and it it's it's it affects the individual as well as a political leader or any leader as well. And I think that's something which requires a lot of introspection. We do, of course, have very brilliant, dedicated public leaders, maybe our Nagar Sevaks or MLAs, a lot of them, because what I believe is that primarily what motivates a person to be in public life is to do a larger good. There could be other things which come along with it, but the primary motivation is always doing something for the larger good. And public life and political life in particular is the epitome of being able to deliver on larger good. So the scale at which our political leaders can operate is enormous. None of the society organizations, individual philanthropies, or even businesses can actually solve things at that scale. So I will be always hopeful about our political leaders, and of course they are. I mean, when you look at them as a collective, there would be uh, different types of people who are there in different shapes and sizes and different motivation that they will bring in. But largely, I found them to be very. Uh, Therefore, I found them to be quite oriented towards solving public issues.
So a positive view on our leaders, which is nice to hear. And from someone who has seen them closely, it's nice to hear that they're concerned by the larger good and doing things also. So that's reassuring.
Abhishek, you know what? With our political leaders, I can actually go and criticize them, give a critical feedback to them in a very easy way. They are not really going to be averse to it. And I'm not just talking about Mumbai. We do now work with different cities and different places. Even in North India, you'll find that leaders are very much open to get a feedback. I think somewhere we as citizens, individuals, we are not approaching them frequently. And that's something that we need to, as individuals, really introspect on. They, of course, they will have some more motivations, and I'm not even denying that. But it's but somewhere we are not engaging them as citizens, and that's something which we need to really reflect upon. If we can change that, we'll of course be able to influence them to deliver on larger goods.
So just want to open this up a little bit, like engaging as citizens. So imagine you would have every citizen of Mumbai, or let's say even 10% of citizens of Mumbai saying, I will give 1 hour a week, or let's just imagine a scenario where there is citizen energy is activated. And there is the question of saying, okay, so then what does engagement look like? Kya karna chahiye? Kya wo choti cheezein hai which you wish citizens would do more of that would transform things?
So one of my colleagues keeps on saying this very regularly. She says that one of the primary job of the citizen is to complain. If you see some problem, go out and complain about it. And when she says complain, it's not about talking to friends or just having dinner side conversation. We need to use the system to give a feedback. Mumbai has a wonderful complaint redressal mechanism. Incidentally, Praja had played a role in setting it up way back in 2003. There's a call center number of 1916. You can go on the MCGM website and put in a complaint. There's an app. Recently, Aditya Thackeray launched a WhatsApp chat on it. So there are more to actually give a feedback to the government if things are not working. It's similarly it's available for state agencies as well. So there are lots of modes which are there. We need to use these official modes to give a feedback to the government and our political leaders. If we don't give that as educated citizens, then we are not doing our job as a citizen. Beyond that, of course, some people can get involved. Not everybody needs to get involved on a day-to-day basis or the 1 hour that you said a week. I'm not even getting to that. Simply, if you're going on the road and you see some problem, use the system to give feedback. Even if you give that, there are people like they say Organization Praja and many other organizations and groups out there who can use this data, even media can use this data to create a positive pressure on the government to act and deliver on. Data is a great thing if we can actually harness it properly. With digitization, I think it's really democratized public utilities and services and our participation. And almost every government agency has some kind of a digital presence. We need to use it to give a feedback. If we are able to do that, then organizations, groups which are working more on making the system better or raising a voice can actually use it to then do their job.
Sure.
And I think volunteering is something that we need to really think about. Like, we don't volunteer for a lot of civic causes. We do volunteer for religious causes, social causes. That's a great thing of our country and as our civilization. Like, we do have that spirit of volunteerism, which is very strong in religious and social aspects of our life. But in civic or political life, we are not volunteering up to the level that we should be. When the independence struggle was happening, there were points when the masses came out and volunteered for different causes. They went back to their own life immediately, but they did come together for certain occasions, and those are the occasions when it created pressure on the colonial powers to kind of take a different view on what is happening in the country and probably give independence. We can't just now not do that. We need to do it at regular intervals. Like, whenever there is a cause that you feel invested into, you need to volunteer. If we can get our citizens to volunteer more for civic and political causes, then we'll have better governance.
So a lot of what I'm hearing is citizens being more active in literally giving feedback to the government, and that the government will respond. So coming to Mumbai now, because since you have seen now many cities, how do you rate Mumbai's governance as honestly as possible? Like, are we doing well? Are we doing average? Are we below average? You've been assessing cards, report cards. So how are we? Like, as a city, how are we doing?
Okay, two aspects. One, there's a template under which our local governments operate. And this our current template under which our local governments operate in the country is very poor. We are not democratically empowered. So really, we can't compare it with advanced democracies or Europe or US, or forget advanced democracy. Even India, few millennia, centuries back, was much more democratic at the local level. Our villages were actually governed internally by locals over there, or our cities and towns were run by guilds and all that. Like, I mean, they were much more democratic. Like, our current structure doesn't allow for it. So I'm just putting a caveat out there.
And by structure, you mean, Milind, the laws of the Municipal Corporation Act and so on, right? And the relationship between the state government, the city, and the central government, that you would say is also the framework.
Yeah, I like you when you said like city, state, and central. I would put it in a different way. Normally, when we hear three tier, we talk of central, state, and local government. I think that's the main problem. It's central, state, and local government. You need to put them
not this way, but this way.
Absolutely. That's the whole problem. Like, somewhere we are kind of created this illusion that you have a superior tier up there, and then you have the other tiers which are below, in a way of speaking. But they're actually not there. There are three domains of government which are there. The central government plays a certain role, mostly in foreign affairs, defense, or finance, which was the original idea. The regional government, the state or the UT, can play a role more on revenue, agriculture, industry, commercial policies, something like that, or regional planning. But the local government is the one which is actually closely associated with our daily lives. However, what has happened is there's a lot of encroachment in that domain by the state agencies mostly, and to some extent by the central agencies as well. And the local authorities, maybe elected or appointed, are not able to complete their mandate. And that's where our cities. That's where our cities are kind of broken out. We've been doing some work on it. There's quite a lot of documents that we have produced, and we are trying to push those reforms out there. And of course, the successive governments have also been talking about. So maybe just coming back to the question that you had about
comparing two aspects. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So the one aspect is really about this structure part of it. Second, if you have to forget the structure and just say in this current structure how we are, uh, well, Mumbai is probably one of the better managed or better governed city, but it's basically it's Andho mein Kana Raja.
Okay.
Okay, we are better just because we are comparing with other Indian cities in terms of different aspects. Like our the BMC has a lot more functions than maybe a Kerala city in Kerala, where people think that there are more student participation happening and all that. But frankly, Mumbai Corporation does a lot more than any other city. It's compared to a semi-state like Delhi state government. Like we actually have almost similar powers. The corporation has a good legacy of a lot of department, engineering department, or the water department, or sewage department. We actually have a great legacy. We have a lot of capacity out there. Uh, but again, this is purely comparison amongst Indian cities. It's not like really the best globally. Um, but when it comes to how much say we have as citizens in our policy making of or running Mumbai, that's where Mumbai is not really scoring high, and that's because of the structure. Uh, so that's the first part of it. Do our mayor and our councillors have adequate power to fulfill the mandate? No, not to a great extent. There's a limitation out there, like, and that's something that we need to address. If we're able to address that, Mumbai would be a very different place.
Mm, mm, mm. And this you think citizens can lobby for, or is this more something that the state central government people will finally have to say that? Like, do citizens have a role in influencing this?
Well, we have a role for sure. We need to lobby is a difficult word these days, but we need to definitely do our job as a citizen. We need to keep on raising the voice. We need to support people who are raising voice for better structures. Ultimately, there are two powers, if I to call it out, who will have to do it. One is, of course, the central government can play a role of an enabler, but the state government, because of the constitutional mechanism, the state governments have the power to actually empower our cities. If the state government really wants to do that, they need to simply make sure that the mayor office is equally empowered on the similar lines the CM's office or the PM's office is like. If you're able to do that, a lot will start changing immediately. Like.
Sure. And let's hope that really happens. For people who have tuned in late, you're listening to Mumbai Charcha, which is where I have from Praja Foundation, the CEO, Milind Mhaske, as my guest. And Mumbai Charcha is a coming together of Mumbai First, Blue Ribbon Movement, and Mumbai Live. So just wanted to say that to viewers. So Milind, let's move a little bit now to the role of civil society. So one is Praja as an organization, but NGO, the NGO world. If I have to say, one is the world of the citizens, one is the world of social workers, like the NGO wale hai, jole wale hai, yeah, whichever way you look at them. I don't know how you look at the NGO walas. Does the civil society need to do something, or does the NGO world, social sector, if I put it that way, what would you say about that? How is the social sector doing its job? Is it adequate? Does the social sector need to do something differently?
From a system process kind of perspective, I think what happens with a lot of social sector organizations is that we look at a problem, we try to figure out a solution for it, and we end up creating an intervention into the system. So if I take an example of education, you see that kids are not getting good public education. You start working with a municipal school or doing some kind of teacher training modules or something like that, and you end up becoming a service provider into over there and limit yourself towards the intervention part of it, which is fine because that will give you a proof of concept, will tell you or help you solidify your ideas. But the real solution would be when you actually address that systemic gap, that the publication system was not probably offering a good quality education, probably the pedagogy was not good, or teacher training aspect was not good, so whatever. Like, and this can be only solved when you work at a policy level and intervene and get them to improve on that policy. And at that time, your intervention which you're running is just a laboratory kind of case, like where you're doing an experiment and trying to show it back to the system, like what has to be changed. But a lot of organizations get caught into the experiment part. They feel that that's where the
Get it.
scale and that's where
That becomes their purpose.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you kind of sometimes forget why you exist actually, like. Um, and that's a catch that we need to address. Like if we are able to, we need to do both things. I'm not saying that it's a either or kind of thing for sure. You need to have some do an experiment, show a demonstration for yours also to know that this is the right solution. But at the same time, there has to be some part of your energy which needs to be used towards improving the system and working with the policymakers and making sure that the policy is improved and brought in that manner. Right? And that part of advocacy is very important. Right? And so that's I'm just calling out that's one area I think all of us should actually be actually get more aware about it. Absolutely, absolutely. It's been it can't happen right at the beginning. You'll have to go through phases to reach that stage. So it will require some kind of incubation period to be there, which is fine.
Sure.
But
after that, the policy intervention is the nice. That's a great pointer, I think, for all the not-for-profit people out there who are listening to it. How do we transition our projects into policy recommendations and see them happen on scale? Milind, a question that comes to is how do you manage your political views and ideology? You work with elected representatives across the spectrum, and it must be quite a task to be like, and they come to Praja's work to learn from Praja, which is a huge achievement, I would say, to get elected representatives and build their capacities or bring them together even. Just curious, two questions. One is personal politics. How do you deal with your own views? Do you display them, hide them? Do you work more with certain people, not? And second is, which are the gaps you are filling which were not present that are strengthening democracy?
Well, I won't say that I don't have a particular political view or the way I look at this. Of course, like all of us, we have certain orientation that is there, and I think a lot of our orientation also evolves with time. So that is of course there. I'm definitely well aware of that. However, what we do, what we are very clear as an organization and as a group of individuals who have played some role in building the organization and the work over here, is that we work very clearly on the basis of data. We work very clearly in a collaborative manner, and we are non-partisan. So these are three aspects or guiding principles for the work that we do. So we'll talk to everybody, like we'll talk to Shiv Sena, MNA, Samajwadi Party, Congress, BJP, everybody. Aam Party abhi naya hai, to unse bhi baat karenge. Individual aata hai, to unse bhi baat karenge. We'll have a wide range of conversation with everybody. We'll share whatever data that we have with all of them. And the whole idea is to well, share whatever knowledge or understanding that we have got, but also learn from them. If we use this approach, I think most of the people, it's very easy to work with most of the people. It's really not that difficult if you go out today to learn and also share a bit of what you have. So those kind of things have helped us. In terms of what was a gap that we have filled, I think a gap really has been to using data for governance. Like that's one area that we have been consistently working. And all our, if you call it, all our products in a way have evolved because on that basis only. If you're talking of urban governance index, or which we have at a national level, when we went out to on the field to understand the issue, we said that for the first few months, years, we only spend time to hear and discuss with multiple people and collect data and information. Once we have that, then we'll present it back to build a narrative around using that whatever data we collected and present it back for the purpose of what is to solve the problem or to do some advocacy. So that's a structure that we have followed, and the products are kind of evolved from there. Like it's knowledge which we are trying to harness. We are I would like to think that we are trying to create thought leaders out there. Like so that's a space that we are kind of trying to operate in.
And thought leaders who decide based on data is what I'm gathering because you're also strong and heavy on data.
Absolutely.
How do we rate vis-a-vis the global cities when it comes to using data for governance? And are we do we have a long way to go, or are we also at par with administration using data, or how are we?
So I think during the COVID times, I was very happy with the work that Mumbai Corporation did. And we need to kind of really appreciate that because they were putting data out continuously on their website. The data set was available on a regular basis. It was being updated on a regular basis. Why I'm calling this one example out is like, if the intention is there, and if there is a leadership which kind of views it in that manner, we are capable of doing much more. It doesn't happen regularly. That's the problem. If you currently even go on the BMC website, you will find that a lot of information data is not available. I don't. If you look at it to see what was the discussion which happened in the last gender body meeting, those minutes are not available. So it's kind of it starts and stops at the political leadership. If they have the will, they can actually make sure that our cities have enough data on their websites and which can be activated or learned upon or kind of built upon it. I think our policymakers need to understand that by simply sitting on data or hiding it, they are not going to solve the problem. One of the very simple example which always comes to my mind is it's Google Maps. Once you have had Google kind of map it out and put the data out there in the public domain, you had a lot of these unicorns which got created. You had Uber, Ola, I mean, what not? Like, I mean, everything got created based on data being available to them. Maps were always available. Real-time maps were also available with defense agencies. But there was this agency which democratized that data. And then you had a lot of things which happened, which have made our life more like, it's actually helped our life a lot, like, I mean, with all these things coming up. If our bureaucrats and our government or political leaders actually view it that way, that they have a lot of data, and the problem out there of citizens or services is something that we all need to collectively solve for. And if they actually open up the databases, we'll actually a lot of people will collaborate and create tools to solve that issue. That's what exactly happened during COVID times. You have a lot of non-profits coming in, you had a lot of philanthropists coming in, you had corporates coming in, you had businesses coming in to provide the supplies. That was because the government was reaching out. They need to reach out and provide the data out to people. They need to be open about even the shortcomings. It's ultimately we the people, right? I mean, they are part of us.
Yes. True. And it's a great example, Milind, because I think we did respond really well and everybody came together at the right time in the right way. So that's nice. That something that we dealt with bravely and together. So Milind, I want to move to your visions for the city. I'm sure being in the city and seeing, you must be dreaming like what is possible. So if you had to start articulating a vision for 2050, maybe, Mumbai 20 years, 25 years later, and also from your domain, what would you what do you dream of? कि ये हो जाना चाहिए या ऐसा कुछ हो जाए तो अच्छा रहेगा. What's your visions for the city?
I think our governance template has to change. That's the first thing. If we need to reach at 2050 and have a great city, to have that, we need to definitely democratically empower our local governments. That's the first thing. Second would be, of course, bringing accountability so that citizen participation can happen, and that's the way it will happen. So these are two pillars which or two kind of building blocks which need to come in.
So change the template and build accountability through citizen participation.
Absolutely. If you're able to do these two things, I think then we'll have a great city. Like, I mean, a great place to live. We'll have great public transport. Hopefully, very few people will own cars for private transport. I actually feel that private transport is a waste of time. Like, I mean, we don't need to really own a lot of these things. Like, people will have good housing. Neighborhoods will be like really planned in a way that children can actually cycle around. I love cycling. I love to take my kids for cycling. I really hope all our suburbs have space where people can cycle. The roads need to be need to become a space where people kind of come and meet. There's livelihood, there's fun. Those things have to happen on streets, not in uh, clubs and those kind of things. I
Yes.
mean, those need to really go away. Like those exclusive clubs need to vanish or just be in few pockets. Like we really don't need it. We really need people to enjoy and
Yes.
do every
Yes.
activity on the street. Like if you can
Yes.
convert
Yes.
that, I think that's one thing that will, for me, that's one of the parameters for
A good city.
successful
Yes.
city. Like
Yes.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Uh,
Completely.
I mean, green spaces. If you can get more open spaces that people can enjoy, that might be a great thing to have. Uh, and somewhere we need to understand that economy and culture and societal life kind of go very closely. So if we are able to tie it, and I think the only way it will get tied is not by creating exclusive domains, but actually making sure that people are able to freely and easily kind of go about their daily lives. Like if you're able to simplify those processes, that's something that we need to really work on. Like, and I hope really in
Simplify
25,
their, say a
2050.
little more about what you said last, like simplify their daily life
So
in what way?
if I to start a business, I mean, there's let's say I just want to put a food truck. Like I should be able to just do it. Like if I think of it today, I should be able to literally put it tomorrow. Like
Right, right.
it should be our governments or our agencies need to become facilitators, enablers, and that's what I see in my future city. Like
Get it.
the government babu is not somebody who sits in the office, but this person is actually on the field and making sure that there's a vision for the neighborhood or the domain that she kind of leads, and tries
Mm-hmm.
to enable to reach that vision. And we kind
Nice.
of really collaborating with those with our leaders, like elected board of them. That's where I see my city. Like I see it as a
Nice.
great community space.
And I loved what you said, vision for the neighborhood. So not only vision for the city, but what's the vision for my neighborhood? And
So
everybody coming around that and thinking about that. That would be quite.
it starts with that. I mean, really, city or the nation is like a little more away. Like you really start with uh, your neighborhood. That's where you spend most of your time. Like
Yes, 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 definitely. So, Milind, do you see the 74th Amendment area sabhas as feasible, practical for a city like Mumbai? ALMs are there. Like, how do you look at bringing some of the 74th Amendment ideas? Are they practical? Should they be done? Uh, what's your sense on citizen
it's been
organizing?
almost 30. It's been almost 30 years that the 74th came. 25, 30 years that the
Right.
74th came.
Yeah.
92 made implement. A lot of things didn't get implemented properly. uh, I think we need to introspect from that aspect. It's an amendment which came in, but there were lots of law in that amendment. A simple thing about using the word may and shall in that amendment has caused the problem. Like,
So,
what
I'm
it says
using the
is,
words
so what it says that 18 functions may be transferred to the city government
may.
instead of shall. I mean,
Ah,
the intent was not right out there. Like there's a before that amendment, there was a bill which was being discussed, which was much more stronger. So I don't
right.
think we need to get stuck with because that amendment came. That's the only way we can make our cities work and all that. We can bring in a new amendment. We can make some more changes to it. Like it has to evolve. Like ward committees. Let's take a very simple example. It's a great idea to have citizen participation, but you can't have participation and at all forums. Somebody has to take decision. So if you elected somebody, you're given that person a mandate, you need to kind of let them actually go with that mandate and take some decisions. You need to give them a feedback. So you need a forum for that. Like um, uh, let's take most of us in Mumbai stay in cooperative housing societies. We don't even attend our cooperative housing society meetings, and we're talking
Yes.
about having ward committees and area sabas.
Yes.
I don't think that's
It's
something that's
practical. Get
really
it. True.
practical.
True.
We need and at the same moment I'm not saying that ऐसा कोई forum होना नहीं चाहिए वार्ड कमेटी ऐसा हो सकता है उसको सोचना होगा कैसे होना चाहिए but यहाँ पे actually what we didn't understand 30 years back we didn't have mobile with all of us like I mean we didn't have social media we didn't have a smartphone and stuff like that and almost everybody right now has it even a person from a low background has it. We looked at a vaccine story where everybody has kind of got it through a mobile kind of or through a friend or through some community agent who has been there. They have got access to it. We need to use digital and mobile to create participation. If you want to create participation, if that was what the ward committees aimed for doing, uh, we should not get too caught up on the idea of ward committee. We should look at the principle behind it.
The spirit and principle. Nice.
Absolutely.
That's a nice way.
Also get citizens to get involved. They should, but to get involved, we need to have access to data, information. Now, how do we do that? That's something that we need to think about. We need to think about how people can, then, once you have that information, how they can kind of transact with the government, how they can give a feedback to the government, how they can participate in the governance process. And that's where probably your mobile or your digital technologies will kind of come into place. We need to start. We need to move accordingly. We can't be in a time wrap having a 30-year-old idea go with it. We need the concept was very clear at that time that you needed citizens to participate, and that's why the ward committees and area sabhas were envisaged. We need to go with it, but we need to build upon it. Those are things that we need to really keep on thinking. If our lives are changing because of technology at a very fast pace, our governance has to change similarly.
Yes, nice.
You can't have to run your government. I mean, or daily life. Like,
true.
You need to think in that manner. Like, definitely 74th amendment. We need a new 74th for sure. Like, I mean, that's something that has to happen. Like, the time has come. Our cities, we are seeing that happening in a way because most of the time, like, India really moves in crisis. Like, I keep on saying this quite often, the founder of Praja, and I think that's very true. Like, we really move in crisis a lot. Couple of years back when the COVID thing started happening, we saw people leaving cities and going. And we understood that they were going because they were not getting basic livelihood facilities, or and those issues were happening. And if we have to solve for them, all of them, we'll have to have a city which is functioning in a different manner. The time has come for it for sure. There's a lot of pressure. Our cities are growing. Our population are growing in the cities. Urban population is going to grow. Statistics are there. It's going to happen now or in few years, but it's definitely going to happen. We're just hoping that it happens more earlier. We are just hoping that we are trying to work as an organization towards it, and hopefully we're trying to engage with people, political leaders or government leaders who can actually understand that vision and translate it into action.
And I'm sure it will happen. And when it does, people like you, organizations like Praja would definitely be one of the key reasons, key enablers of making it happen. Last question, Milind, I wanted to close with one last question. We're near time also. Was, since you said that it starts with Vada Pav and it ends with Vada Pav for you, I thought if you could pick a few mouth-watering dishes from Mumbai, and if you could tell us where can we find them, like Vada Pav to pure shahar mein milta hai, but do you have a special Vada Pav? Do you have a special restaurant, a special dish? Can we end with some food recommendations from your journey, which we can follow?
That's very difficult because I simply love food. So
you love food all across.
Absolutely, all sort of cuisine. So it's really difficult to pick
any
up
adda, any favorite restaurant, any go-to place that you would recommend to our listeners, which is your
Ghar ka khana.
Ghar ka khana. The home food. Okay, that's a nice one also to have. It's a first where somebody said home food, so I'm sure it's delicious.
I mean, food. That and if you're going out, you need great company. If you have great company, I think food anywhere is going to.
The food matters much lesser. Wow.
Yeah.
Cheers to that thought, Milind. Thank you so much for your time and your ideas. Wishing you a lot of energy, lot of success, because in your success is tied our own good life as well. So, and thank you for doing what you do, Milind.
Thanks a lot. Really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yes, me too. Thanks a lot. So, Milind, I just request you to stay on while the team pauses this, and thank you, audience, for being with us through this. And we shall be back with one last Mumbai Charcha to conclude.